Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Dada's Show, coming to you straight from the Bomba Hotel here in Nairobi. The Dada's Show is an equality and inclusion program that focuses on the issues that are near and dear to women and their impacts and the implication in regards to the 2022 general election. We encourage you at home to take part through all our social media platforms at the Dada's KBC. We look forward to hearing your comments, your questions, any feedback that you have in regards to this episode and any other episode. We welcome that. The meaningful inclusion of women, youths, persons with disability and other less represented groups is very crucial for a truly democratic election. The IEBC have been tasked with a mandate to ensure that all eligible citizens of the country have an opportunity to participate in the elections, regardless of their social and political background. So today we will be exploring what measures have been put in place to ensure that marginalized groups such as the persons with disabilities and the intersex community is well represented. Of course, we also have a member of the WCC who will also give us an in-look of what measures the IEBC has put in place to ensure that women are coming out in droves and numbers to either participate or to be aspirants or also to be part of the electorate in the August 9 polls. But before we get into that, let's take a look at the following feature.
Voting is an exercise that is every Kenyan's democratic right. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has assured persons with disability of its commitment in ensuring inclusivity in the electoral process. Speaking during a stakeholders forum with persons with disability, under the theme of enhancing voter participation and inclusion for a stronger democracy at KICD, IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati said the constitution had laid a solid foundation for political participation and representation of persons with disabilities.
The Commission is in the process, and this is important, of acquiring polling booths that can be accessed by persons who are physically challenged to ensure secrecy of the vote and convenience of marking of ballot papers by voters. Then we always train our people to give priority when persons with disabilities go to polling stations.
He said the Constitution, in furtherance of its pursuit to secure and guarantee the rights of PWDs, obligated Parliament to enact legislation to promote representation of marginalized groups that include persons with disability. On voter registration for PWDs, IEBC said that it had put in place measures to facilitate access to registration, voter information and polling by conducting voter registration in premises that can be easily accessed by PWDs. The Commission will also identify PWDs during voter registration for purposes of planning for their requirements to vote. IEBC is also in the process of acquiring polling booths that can be accessed by persons who are physically challenged to ensure secrecy of the vote and convenience during marking of ballot papers by voters. Although the electoral body has made strides in having inclusive elections, the third gender of the intersex community still remains unrepresented and excluded in the election process. We spoke to some Kenyans and this was their reaction.
Democratic right yao lazima wa vote, waweze kukatazwa kuvote, lakini sasa IBC ndio sijui itaweka kwenye kategori gani, male or female, lakini it's their democratic right to vote. Sasa hapo ni kazi iko kwa IEBC.
Intersex are people or individuals who are biological born with the two sexes of a man and a woman. And this is not a multiple choice. It's something that comes biologically. And a human being has to be born after 9 months. So I feel they have a right to live with us here in this world. They have a right for education. They have a right for rise in any type of work they are doing. And they are special interest people who should be catered for by any present government. Because in Europe and North America, they are catered for. So we have to copy the same and not discriminate them and give them chances. Also, it's possible for us even to vote for them.
Welcome back. Today I'm joined with a panel of individuals who've been working hard to ensure that there is equality and inclusion when it comes to the general elections. Next to me is Madam Bina Maseno. She's from the Women Coordinating Committee of IEBC, WCC. And next to her is Honorable Bridget Songok, who will be representing persons with disabilities. And finally, we have Dr. Dennis Wamalwa, a gentleman on the Dada's show, Karibu Sana, who is a commissioner from the KNCHR, who will be representing intersex persons. Karibuni Sana. Of course, I have to acknowledge my wonderful audience. Thank you so much for taking time to sit with me as we explore some of these contentious issues. So to start us off, I'll start off with you, Bina. So the IEBC has urged women to come out in droves and numbers, not only to be voters, but for also various elective positions. So much so that they formed the WCC. Can you tell us more about this commission and what role it serves?
Thank you so much for inviting me to this amazing show and to this wonderful discussion. My name is Bina Maseno, the Executive Director for Badidi Africa and the Vice Chair for Women Coordinating Committee under IEBC. And the role of the Women Coordinating Committee is to amplify women's voices and encourage them to participate actively in the upcoming general election as voters, as candidates, as observers, and as mobilizers. So currently we are mapping out the barriers to their participation as voters and candidates and mobilizers and observers, but also at the same time we are carrying out voter education across the country. And this month, we're actually ensuring that especially women and girls get to verify their voter registration status. I also hope the women in this show today have already verified their status to ensure that you understand where you're going to vote in the upcoming election. And I think lastly is to also map out the hotspots when it comes to electoral violence. As we all know, the research shows that the majority of the population that actually is affected by electoral violence is actually women and girls.
Yeah, thank you so much. Moving to you, Bridget. Bridget, you are a PWD who is vying for an MCA position.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Please tell us how your journey has been in light of the challenges and some of the things that you experience while pursuing this electoral post.
Ellen, thank you for giving me this opportunity for participating in Dada show. As a person with disability, as a woman, it's all a problem when it's come. When I was vying, because I lost it during my nomination, there were a lot of challenges from, as a person with disability, they see you like a less human being. Some see your disability before seeing your ability. It has been a very big issue when it comes to political. Yep.
Mm-hmm. In a bid to enlighten us, how do you define an intersex person?
Oh, thank you, Ashiko, and thank you for inviting me to this show. I want to give you a little bit of a background because intersex has been there with us from time immemorial, but at times something has to happen so that things come out. I want to give you a definition of intersex persons as adopted by the task force report that was set up by the AG to look into the policy, legal, institutional, and administrative, reforms regarding intersex persons, because in
2017, I believe.
Yeah, that's 2017 task force report. Thank you. At least you have a clue of that. It was set up because we had a case, two cases, the Richard Mwasia case and the Baby A case, where a child was born and could not present with either male or female. And so when it came to registration, there was a problem. So the case went to court. Initially, RM case, he fell to the wrong side of the law and was taken to prison, to commit maximum prison, only to realize he was neither male or a female, and so his rights were violated. So the lawyers took the case, the commission actually took the case, and it necessitated the AG to form a task force. So according to the task force that is now we're working with, a definition of an intersex person, because there's confusion when we talk about intersex. It's a child who is born with the biological sex characteristics that cannot be exclusively categorized in the common binary of male or female due to their inherent, inborn, and mixed anatomical, you cannot tell this a man, a woman, or hormonal in terms of testosterone and estrogen for women, for example, there's a mix of that, and gonads. Some children are born with both an ovary and a testicle. Or chromosomes. A typical female, you have 46XX as a female. A typical man should be having 46XY. I'm an intersex by myself. In terms of chromosomes, and for the interest of time, I don't want to go into this, but like for myself, I was born with 47XXY, meaning biologically, I lean more on feminine. But you see, I thank God I had a very supportive family. I've underwent over 37 major operations to be what I am today. And I thank God, I thank our government that in 2019, intersex children and persons were counted. We're minority because we're only 1,554 intersex persons that were recorded. But it comes with a lot of challenges. I don't know whether we shall have a follow-up question on that. Today, as Ashiko, I'm here because my colleague, who we call Francis Kwamboka, just won a nomination. He's vying. But he's supposed to be here. He cannot make it here because he's been locked out. IEBC cannot recognize him. And that's why I thank God we have someone from IEBC. And from here, believe you me, as a commission, because we promote and protect intersex persons. The state recognized intersex persons. I'm the first intersex person to hold such a position in the society, actually in Africa and the whole world. The other day I was in, where was I, Gloria? Cote d'Ivoire, just talking about these issues. And people are now starting to understand and recognize that intersex person, and by the way, they have something extra. Because of the mix of these chromosomes, you still have an extra X.
Yes.
So there's something I have extra than
So
you.
you can understand, you can be able to, and you know, it's good that you have put it like that. I really, and instead of people looking at what someone is lacking, they should actually look at what somebody is having.
Exactly.
Because you are in a position to understand me more than, let's just say, a man who has X, you know, just XY, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very good point to actually, that's a very good point to note, even for the audience and even for the future, as we are trying to change our, not even trying, as we are changing our mindset to be more inclusive of people, instead of looking at what they are lacking, instead of me sitting and looking at Bridget and saying this is what she's lacking, so she's incomplete. Why don't we figure out what is this that she extra that she has?
Exactly.
Because I can imagine being a person with disability, your resilience is far much more than an able-bodied, because your set of challenges is much higher. Now, moving to you, Madam Bina, in light of what the two have actually talked about, in spite of their challenges and their victories, I'm looking at them as these are pointers for us to take note, and you go and take the message back and say this is what we need to work on. So far, what accommodations has IEBC made in regards to especially women, aspiring women with disabilities?
First of all, I want to commend my two panelists for actually being brave enough to champion issues as regards to intersex people and also persons with disabilities. And also the main reason why even this body, the Women Coordinating Committee and even the Youth Coordinating Committee was formed, is to ensure that we collect data across the country on how marginalized groups are experiencing challenges in relation to them showing up to participate effectively in electoral processes, right? And we usually have like monthly meetings and even bi-monthly meetings to ensure that we table these issues before the commission. And I think Madam Joyce is in charge of partnerships at the IBC, has been very supportive to ensure that whatever we table actually is considered in terms of coming up with strategies to mitigate that. So even as Dr. Omalo, in fact, we just began speaking in terms of what are some of the needs or support that we can offer in terms of ensuring that those issues actually reach the right door, but not just the right door, but the right person. Because you know, at times you can just speak to someone and they're like, "Don't worry, we're going to consider this." And by the time you get to the right person who's supposed to assist you, they're like, "I don't know about this particular matter." And there's also another body that is actually working to ensure that persons with disabilities are not excluded. And I'm happy to also introduce you to that body. It's still a different body away from WCC and YCC. So now there's a body just representing persons with disability. And I think it would be amazing for you to actually work with them, because you have lived experiences of what you're experiencing currently as you're participating in this election. Yeah.
Okay, so that's addressing the persons with disabilities. Do you, because like Dr. Amalo has said, intersex persons have been in existence since time immemorial. And now is when now, like you're saying, the certain cases are prompting society, they're even prompting government to actually acknowledge and recognize that these are people, these are human beings, and they deserve, because according to the Constitution, even voting is a human right. So the moment that you're stopping somebody, like you're saying, Kwamboka from vying because she does not, or he does not identify, which side does Kwamboka lean more to? You see, like for you, I can understand you've explained. Yeah.
Actually, Kwamboka, the issue here is about the names.
Yes.
He grew up because he was identified by her, by the parents as a she, and so he grew up as Francisca Kwamboka.
Yes.
ID, registration, everything. He had the issue is documentation. Right now, he knows self-recognized sex according to him, because things change as one grows.
As you grow older, yes. As you get to puberty and all of that, yeah.
So right now, he's Francisca Kwamboka.
Yes.
So the issue is about documentation. So we are saying, Office of Registration of Political Parties has an issue. As much as he has the letter from the lawyers, he has the letter from his organization, Chinziangu, yeah? They cannot accept this.
They still want to identify, at this point, her, because I have seen Kwamboka. And Kwamboka, by all outward appearance, would look like a man. Yeah, but she identified as a woman. So those are some of the things that we need to start accepting, that this is who the person is, because still breathing, still has blood, still has rights.
Yes.
So the current issue right now is registration.
Yes, documentation.
Documentation.
Like my colleague here, it's come out clearly. Gloria is an intersex person. When you look at her ID, we've always had issues. She's been accused of impersonation. When you look at this ID and you look at her, they keep on pushing her. Go to the gents. Go to the gents. But she identifies as a lady because of the changes in the body. Even look at the demeanor. You see a man.
Yeah,
so these are the challenges we're going through.
And these are people in society, come to think of it, because if you look at Gloria from outward appearance, you will think that, this is supposed to be George.
Exactly.
But it's Gloria, and what she believes in is what actually should be carried forth. You see, and I think that's we've taken a small detour, but I think that was a very, very important detour for us to take, so that we can also familiarize ourselves with certain things. Please.
I just wanted to quickly say that when it comes to challenges people face in their society, it should not be up to the survivors or victims to fight for their own justice. And I think that is what happens in the society, such that if today you're experiencing gender-based violence, it's up to you to seek justice for yourself. The burden for seeking for justice actually is on your back, and the society is not actually rallying their support behind you to ensure that actually people take this matter seriously, because if actually you're actually experiencing that matter, there's only so many people who can actually rally. I mean, if you're to mobilize your group, there are not as many. But if we actually stood up and said, you know what, gender equality is about equal opportunity for everyone, regardless of their gender, right? And we're like, you know what, we're going to rally our support behind you to ensure that you actually access justice, right? I don't have to be a person with disability to support her. You see, I don't have to have experienced gender-based violence to actually say I'm going to fight for justice for people, you know, people who've experienced gender-based violence or survivors of gender-based violence. And I think that is where we need to step in, that you don't have to experience that problem for you to step up. Like, you step up because it's the right thing to do. You step up because we should all be treated equally when it comes to respect and human dignity, right? That we all deserve it, not just some specific people in the society. And I think if we start that, then we won't have this challenge where we just have a group of people struggling by themselves and us looking from the periphery saying, oh, I think that should not happen. I don't think we should actually be spectators when people come and actually discuss their, you know, the challenges they go through. When people are discussing their challenges, we should be asking ourselves, what is my role in ensuring that they actually access justice? As we listen, that should be the question we ask ourselves.
That is true. So, Bridget, in the spirit of offering a platform, actually, let's say the Dada's show, what would you want to see the government do in regards to persons with disabilities and the participation in the general elections? And now we're talking August 9. We're not talking in the future. We're talking, what are some of the measures that you would wish would be taken to charge? Because they do have the capacity to put things in place almost immediately. This is something that's been going on for a while.
Exactly.
What would you want the government to do if, you know, they're listening to us or watching us right now?
I have a lot of questions to tell to the government. As in, I'm not only talking only for people with disability, but all for women and a person with disability, even for the like, they should give us that freedom as a person with disability. I should move from point A to point B without any difficulty. Like IBC, my question goes to IBC, like, if I'm a person with disability, where the voting, where I can vote, the polling station should be easily, the movement, the building. And again, you know, most people with disability, they've seen us like a beggars. Like, the society sees us like beggars. We don't have money and everything. Yes, of course, some still stays in a good place. Their parents didn't come out, and maybe they have the leadership in them. So I need, like, government and party to zero rate anything when it deals with when a person with disability come out. And I thank God for my party, who gave us a zero rating. We were not paying anything for nomination. You know, the cost, the finance cost, the place should be movable. You know, we should not have that pittiness. If you see me, just see me as Bridget, as a leader, as a pretty woman, as a beautiful woman. Don't see my disability. Just see me who I am. And also let the family or my family should come out and support me, because you find my family doesn't support me. Like, I had an experience with my relatives. They didn't want to support me. They support someone and said, you are not capable of doing that, Bridget, for heaven's sake. Can you step down? Of which it's so bad. If my family cannot support me, the society will not support me. We need to educate the society that as a person with disability, we have a right to vote and to be voted. Article 38, you know, we need to be voted. We need to be leaders, because I can do twice as you guys. I always say that I do twice than you be now. If I given chance, I can do twice. Yes, that is what the government should come. And again, the media should come out and say, Bridget is capable of doing this. If you educate the society, the way Bina was like, if you educate the society that Bridget is capable of doing this, who is the society? They will accept. Yes.
I'm going to pose the same question to you, Dr. Being an intersex person, you have been able to witness some of these injustices. If you got a forefront with the president, if you got with the relevant even civil organizations, IEBC included, you know, if you had Mr. Jibukati here, what would you want to tell them in light of the elections and people participating in the registration?
Thank you, Shiko. One, I also wish to clarify that, as Dr. Malwa, a commissioner at the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. We advocate for human rights compliance in all aspects, through all the duty bearers. My appointment was direct from the president. So already he recognized, but of course I had the qualifications. I'm not there only to stand in for the intersex persons, but as a human rights defender, what we say is haki kwa wote, kila wakati. Na kila wakati, haki kwa wote. Human rights for all, at all times. I want to agree with Bridget, what Bridget said. It cuts across that there should be no violation at all. I do not only stand for the intersex persons. As a commissioner, I stand for all human rights, the marginalized, the disability, and everybody else. So if Wafula Jebkati, a very good friend of mine, if he was here today, and for sure I'll look for him, I'll tell him, can we mainstream issues of, let's say, intersex persons specifically, in the electoral process? Because like we are saying, everybody has a right to vote and to be voted. We are trying. Already we want to have an eye marker. People talk of a third sex gender. No, there's nothing like a third gender. It's a third marker. Where as intersex persons, we want to have an eye marker so that we have female, male, and intersex. Otherwise, Kwamboka will not be having issues.
No.
Right now, my ID reads male because that's what I've grown up knowing. And so changing the documentation is a challenge. If I had the Public Service Commissioner here, I'll say, can we mainstream, can we kind of fast track issues of intersex persons? They're very few. And they're very intelligent, very bright. At times they drop out of school because of being misunderstood. As I talk to you right now, the other day, one of my own dropped out of a nursing school because he's grown up as a man, then from nowhere, periods. So he even doesn't know how to go about it. So what I'm saying is let's mainstream in all places. Recruitment, she's been there several times. Wewe, kijana toka enda huko, enda huko, enda huko. She's saying no, I'm glad. Toka. Thrown out of the line for recruitment. And believe you me, if the Public Service Commission and the government of this country, do you know why Mohammed Gaddafi was always surrounded by what we call women as security, yet they're Muslims? Intersex persons will make the best intelligence of this country. You put on a skirt, you pass. You put on this, you pass. Get information. And you save the country. We're wasting resources.
So we are wasting resources by putting up with trivial matters. And
Exactly.
what you're asking, if Mr. Chibukati was here with us, and to just mainstream the whole process.
Yes.
Because I also feel like you just need to add a box.
Just a box.
Just a box.
Yes.
And tick it. You know, so I think on that note, we're going to take a short break and then we'll come back and welcome the audience questions. Thank you so much. Welcome back. We have a wonderful audience here of aspirants, businesswomen, women of all walks of life. And to start us off on the question and answer session, we will have Winnie.
My name is Winnie Kaburu. I am glad to be here, and I'm so excited to look at all these beautiful people. I am a businesswoman, and I am also a politician. I ran for office as deputy president of this country with the Professor Lekiapi, a man I respect a lot, 2013. I also ran as a governor in Meru County, 2017. I didn't get enough votes, But I believe I meant, or I was able to make other women think of standing, especially where I come from in Meru. We have now having 13 women who are standing for different elective positions. That gives me a lot of pride. We have also a woman who wants to be a governor, who was our women rep. And I'm glad that women in Meru are coming out positively to stand for elections. That is way, way beyond my expectations. Thirdly, I used to be the vice chair and the CEO for KEPSA. We started KEPSA some years back. I was there for 7 years. So business, I'm also a businesswoman. So I stand on quite different grounds. And I'm so glad to listen. I'm always interested in what the people living with disabled do. I am vice chair at the vice chair for women Democrats at Wiper Party. And I'm always interested about people living in disability and what the parties do. I don't see much. We were told that all the lists for political parties, list should have, was it 2,000 of women? Did it really happen? I remember Chepkati coming out and saying that we are not taking this. He said we have, removed it, withdrawn it. Why?
Yeah.
It was there. That's why we're having an issue of 2,000 also women. And they said, okay, it is in the Constitution, but we can't know how to practically make it happen.
I think that's a good question. When we're talking about benchmarking, because the IBC has been tasked with a role to benchmark the political parties, especially. Yeah. When we're looking at it, how is that? And I think in a nutshell, that was what the question is, because they're all on paper. It all looks nice and dandy on paper. But what role does IBC and even the WCC, especially in ensuring that the 2/3 gender rule has been implemented? Because there's been so many cases, even times we have had here on the show, where people are talking about, yes, we talk about the 2/3 gender rule, but has it really been implemented? People are complaining about their parties being told to step down. So what is IBC doing in regards to the implementation? Are there people who've been called to book because of not doing a certain thing, certain parties? Who is, because you're the benchmarkers, you're the accountability partner. So I think that in a nutshell, that was the question. How is IBC implementing the things that these parties have put in place, especially in regards to marginalized groups? For instance, yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. I'm actually honored to meet you today. And just to hear your experiences from being the vice chair to Honorable Ole Kiapi, and just your journey through political parties. And I think when we talk about inclusivity within political parties, is the fact that you're there and you're able to see how special interest groups are marginalized, because someone might actually occupy your position within the political party you're in and not actually see that this particular group, we don't actually have an agenda that actually targets them. And I'm saying that to mean that, and I'm saying that to shed light on why specifically we need to have more persons with disability infiltrate the political party structures. You see, such that you're not invited at the end of it, or you're not invited when the lists are being presented, so that they're able to just tick a box. Because you've seen institutions just inviting you to tick a box. Were there women in the room? Yes. But what kind of women were in the room? Was it women who understand issues? Was it women who actually can articulate issues that are affecting different groups in the society? Who exactly was in the room? Because if you bring just any person in the room and then they're not able to articulate our issues, and the position they occupy is very, very integral, then I think we are failing, right? But then even as we say that, and you've seen the pushback even against IBC, even as they try and say that political party lists have to be sensitive and inclusive to ensure that they actually meet the 2/3 gender rule. And the 2/3 gender rule, from where I sit, is actually a bigger societal issue and also a leadership issue. And I'm saying a leadership issue because, number one, there has been no political will in terms of ensuring that the two-third gender rule, like that our parliament's actually compliant and institutions actually compliant when it comes to the two-third gender rule. I'm saying political will because even our own president is hailed as the women's rights champion, has even gotten awards outside Kenya. You know, outside Kenya, globally, our president has gotten an award for gender equality and championing the women's agenda. Yet back at home, even his own cabinet does not meet the two-thirds gender rule. And I'm pointing out his cabinet because that is an opportunity you have to appoint. These are not elective seats. These are not elective seats. These are actually appointive seats where you actually say, you're qualified, come. Now, even when you've had an opportunity to appoint, your own cabinet has not made the two-thirds gender rule. So I'm saying it's generally a leadership issue, but then a societal. And then also our approaches when it comes to inclusivity. Number one, when we've debated this bill in Parliament, number one, there's even been no quorum. There's been no quorum to even pass the bill. And it's from both sides, both women and men. You can imagine. We've been debating we're debating this bill, and we've had actually women who were not present to push for that bill, right? That is number one. But then number two, when you look at this particular agenda, does Mama Mboga understand what the two-thirds gender bill means? Does Mama Mboga understand how women in leadership translates to quality of life for her? Do young women in the tertiary institutions of learning understand this? Because I work with young women in the urban informal settlements, in tertiary institutions, and also with grassroots women organizing in chamas. Badili Africa just works with chama women leaders. And I can tell you, half the time, even the chama women leaders do not understand the two-thirds gender bill. And why is that important? It's important because the day your own MP abstained from being in Parliament, he did not face a backlash from his voters. He did not face a backlash from his voters. If our own leaders were to face a backlash and women of the community actually holding them accountable, we did not see you in Parliament, we did not see you championing this bill, then you're not for us. Then it would not be the burden of civil society to push for this agenda. But as it stands right now, it's actually the burden of civil society to protest, to ensure that the two-thirds, that Parliament is compliant, right? It has actually, the burden has actually heavily been on civil society. But at the community, even the voters themselves don't hold leaders accountable. Even my own MP, who has never supported this bill, the voters not even ask him, like, by the way, I don't think you're for us. So that's why I'm saying there are two ways to look at this. First of all, lack of political will, and also how the institutions are bringing us, are bringing us down. But then also, again, back to the society, back to the community, and even for the participants and the audience who are here. Do you even know if your MP was in Parliament that day when they were discussing that bill? You see, they're shaking their heads. They're like, you see.
Yeah. So let me get you. So at this particular point, it's hard to implement something that is not recognized. Basically, that's what is coming across, because I believe the question was, what is IBC doing, even what is WCC doing to ensure that even the things that have been put in place. But I do understand where you're coming from, because if the people in the political parties themselves are not willing to stand for their own rights, then it will be very hard to come and implement something.
I think just a summary of it. Number one, we need inclusivity within political parties. I always joke and say, we have women leagues, youth leagues. Why don't we have men leagues? It just tells you who owns the party. Who owns the party, who finances the party, and the majority within the party makes a big difference in terms of how decisions are made. It makes a big difference. And half the time, and maybe you can even attest to that, you find women are seen as dead weight. You're not bringing any money to the political party. You know what I mean? So you're seen as dead weight. Never mind, you can actually mobilize more people to join the party, because even our Chama women mobilize more people to join the party, right? But from IBC as well, and specifically WCC, so I don't get people throwing stones at me when they hear IBC, is to say that we have to work with other stakeholders to ensure that our agendas are actually included.
I remember that the IBC had said that any political party which won't have two-thirds of women voting, list, they won't be disqualified. Then I saw Chepkati saying it's okay, they won't be disqualified. What changed?
So I'll answer that briefly, but also I do hope we're going to have like a very integral person from the commission actually sit on this particular seat and address that. But number one, timelines, number one. And then number two, also the pushback from the institutions themselves. Just the pushback from, yes, the pushback again from the political parties in terms of just being compliant with that.
So let's move on to the next person. Yeah?
Winnie, thanks for your concern. But I just want to clarify that intersex is by birth. It's not about feelings. It's not a choice. Because, yes, it's not that people get the right information. Yes. It's biological sex characteristics that cannot be exclusively categorized in a common binary, each of male, female, because of the mixed hormonal, chromosomal, gonadal, and anatomic kind of presentations. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, so that people get it clear. You know, it's bound to be confused by some other groups, which I don't want to discuss.
Yeah, it's not a feeling. So I think that's also very important.
Yeah, it's by birth.
Being an intersex person, and these are some of the arguments that people, some of the root cause of some of the stigmatization.
Exactly.
Where someone is going to look at Gloria and say, why are you not dressing like this? Why are you not doing this? Why do you do this? It is not something that is chosen. It is how somebody is. Thank you, Dr. Malwa, for that clarification. I believe that's very, very key, not only to our audience, but even to the people back home. We're going to move on to the next question or comment by Annabelle.
My name is Annabelle Kamondo, and I'm very passionate on women economic empowerment, women in leadership, and also now we are working with the African women leaders to ensure that we have peaceful elections. So mine is to the IBC. I'm thinking now that you have the WCC, and we are told that us women are the ones who have the feelings, we are the ones who should push this agenda that for inclusivity and for supporting even the other marginalized groups, like for example, during these coming elections, do you have data that can be used to ensure that it will be easy for them to vote? Like for example, we can have a stream for the persons with disability, because when you look at the persons with disability, there's some people who cannot walk, others cannot write with their hands, others cannot hear, others cannot see. So I think that's something that needs to be pushed. And we as women, from our side, we can push, and even the women now on the WCC, we push that agenda so that we can make it easier for all of us, because this is part of inclusivity. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Annabelle. That is a fantastic question. Yes?
So thank you so much. In terms of data, yes, because when you look at the data collected by civil society, you know, whether it's IFES or it's Westminster, and some of the stakeholders that we are working with who are also supporting some of the activities we are doing at WCC have been gracious enough to also share with us the data that is being collected by the different stakeholders on marginalized groups, and not just marginalized groups in Nairobi, but how marginalized groups are affected across the country, such that if today you're to have an activity in Wajir, you're able to consider how they are affected as compared to, let's say, other marginalized groups in Nairobi, so in terms of per county. And I also welcome you and even the rest of the stakeholders here to also come on board, because we're also in the business of recruiting every other day to ensure that your concerns are met, and we are not the only ones deciding and figuring out that, you know what, I think this is the problem. And the beauty of actually having everyone on board is that there's no monopoly of solutions, but then also to push for ownership, so that you're able to see what can we do in your community? How can we support you to do what you do in your community? So we're actually open in terms of membership for you to actually join WCC.
So you're saying the lines of communication are very open for all the concerns, as long as they're under the umbrella, you're a woman. So be it the marginalized women, you know, so everybody, it's an inclusive, because I feel like that's a word for the day, inclusion. It's an inclusive committee for everybody.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And we also try and avoid clustering. You know, at times when you say, women, you find now even young women are lumped there, young women with disabilities are lumped there, you know, just because you've said women. So we try and ensure that we don't cluster everyone in the same boat, because like we all know, we're not a homogeneous lot, right?
Absolutely.
So we try not to lump everyone in the same boat.
Yeah. Do you feel like the state has taken enough and put enough attention? Because you see, these are things that need to be recorded. These are things that need to be documented so that we do not get to this point where Kwamboka is trying to vie and everybody is up in arms like he was not in existence for the past God knows how many years he's alive. So do you feel like what, and this is back to the question I'd asked you, what would you want to see? And now we're talking from the nitty-gritties, like she said, from hospital, from birth. What would you want to see so that it can go all the way, then we can now decide that we want to talk about IBC?
One, when it comes to the church, Gloria has been, I can't say a victim or a survivor of a lot of rejections from almost all churches. I even wonder whether she has even started going to church. Why? Because there are some churches you go, you have to introduce yourself. When she said Gloria, they say, now what's this? They start to hula balloons, and they want to force her dressed in the way the church wants. So in terms of the church, of course, there's a lot of need for awareness creation. All through, it cuts across. When it comes to issues of health, intersex persons are not covered. We live on hormonal therapy. There are some conditions that can be corrected, no? They're called corrective surgeries, which of course we're now in conversation with the health institutions. NHIF, we want them to cover hormonal therapy because it's very expensive. I use testosterone every after 2 weeks. When I started using when I was 9 years, it was going for 70 shillings. Right now it's 2,000. How many can afford out there? Yet it's a therapy, it's a treatment. When it comes to surgeries, I told you I've undergone over 37 surgeries. It was very heavy on the family. I thank God for coming from a very understanding family. I've had some surgeries out of the country. Both breasts were there, hips were there. You should have seen how I was looking like when I was a teenager. That's the time now things started now blowing up. I used to fight a lot with Makanga. Well, Madam, lete pesa yako. Madam, lete hii. So I used to think everybody's seeing a madam, and you know, it used to piss me off. I went for karate sessions, self-survival skills, until when I recognized myself. In terms of even doctors, for me it was kind of an experimental because I was among the first people with this kind of intervention at Kenyatta National Hospital. My bed used to be surrounded by over 20 nurses. Kumbe those were student nurses. So I was just an experiment. Those were violation of rights. So what are we doing? Because of lack of knowledge, they don't know how to deal with this kind of condition. At times they make decisions that can completely mess you up because these are irreversible kind of surgeries we're going for. I cannot be what I want. I can't change. So what we're doing is Paris, at the commission, we have IPIC, intersex, that's the arm that Gloria works for, intersex persons implementation coordination committee that was formed out of that report.
Yes.
That's now following up on that. We're doing a lot of awareness. The other day I was with Gloria and my colleagues with the Kenya law reforms. In Naivasha, we were drafting a bill on intersex persons recognition and rights bill. Because with this bill now, we can be able to change the names. You know, we can be able to come up with now documentation. I went to see the Undersecretary of the National Revenue Bureau. I have my colleagues who cannot even graduate to date because Mary Waidera, when she went in a university, because she grew up as a girl. James has come out, so it's not a secret. But now he's James Karanja. Now he cannot even graduate because the university is saying you cannot sue us. You go and sue the register of persons. So it's a challenge. So it's about awareness. That now we want to include issues of intersex children right from CBC.
Yes.
We are working with the teachers. Let teachers know because actually even some teachers become a part of the violation of these children. They strip children. I have a child in Kakamega, tossed left, right, center. So it's issues of awareness, issues of changing the curriculum. We need to engage with the Ministry of Health so that we are covered because we need these hormones.
Yeah.
And then in terms of security, when you talk about elections, if Kwamboka cannot even be cleared right now, what will happen when now he goes on the line? We have intersex persons, quite a good number. But because of being, kind of tagged for impersonation, they'll not even be allowed to. There's a person, I tell this is James or this is George, and you'll wonder what am I telling you, because you can say a woman. So you see, these are some of the issues that we really need to engage the government. Of course, I thank the government so far so good. Recognition is there.
Yes.
We have a bill
Yes.
by Honorable Isaac Amaura
Yes.
that was set in the parliament, and we're hoping that it's going to go through when it comes of now recognition of children and persons of intersex nature.
Yeah. You've outlined it perfectly, Dr. Wamalo. I don't even
Thank
feel
you.
like there's anything for me to add because it starts right from the bottom. Every
Yes.
single file. And awareness is
Yes,
everything.
yes.
You know, once the awareness has, there's a lot of education in regards to intersex persons. From the grassroots, even from
Completely,
CBC. So
yes.
when you're growing up with an intersex classmate, you're not looking at them and thinking, what's wrong with this one? I think I went to high school with an intersex lady. And as she was blossoming, she started changing, and you'd find people getting scared to even go to the bathroom with
Yes,
her.
yes.
And yet in Form 1, she looked differently. So some of those are some of the things, once we have information, then I believe then that's a fantastic platform for decision making.
True,
Yeah?
For our panelists, my question maybe might go to the IEBC. You know, I feel like there is information gap between the Office of Registrar of Political Parties and IEBC because I don't want to use the word ignorant, but for the sake of a lack of a better word, let me just use the word ignorant because they have not included the intersex, maybe the existence of intersex persons. So when you check intersex persons, they are not recorded as intersex persons. They are recorded as either male or female. If you check the IBC register, you can't find the intersex person being registered or recorded as intersex. It's either male or female. So this makes us maybe get security threats. Because when you check our physical appearance, our physical characteristics that does not match with the names, you see the documentation IBC and Office of the Registrar of Political Parties that they have. So we urge the IBC and Office of the Registrar of Political Parties to include, intersex in their registers. Because once they have included that, then Kwamboka could have been cleared. We couldn't have been having all these issues. So we urge IBC to include intersex. Just add a box there, intersex. If the government can applaud and count intersex persons in the General Census 2019, why can't they not even just add a box and say for intersex?
I think that's very valid. If the government could acknowledge intersex person in the census, then why would they not include in a document? Because at this, and I loved what you said, let's mainstream these things. And so that we can be able to move forward as a people, as a society. Societies across the globe are accepting everybody for who they are. And you're noticing that you are depicting the complete blueprint of a society by accepting everybody and their individual strengths and their differences. So I think that's a call to action for our government, because I think even the miscommunication is not even only IABC and registration for the political parties, even registrar of persons. So there are all these different dockets that need to synergize, because if intersex persons have already been acknowledged, then we need all the other people to come on board. The purpose of the Bill of Rights in the Constitution is to promote the dignity of individuals and communities. So as we move closer to the general elections this year, let us be cognizant of each other. As human beings, let us also preserve each other's dignity, be it somebody from the marginalized group, be it what we consider abled bodies. So let us move forward with the spirit of equality and inclusion. And as always, I want to welcome you to participate on our social media pages at the Dada's KBC. I am looking forward to your questions, any comments and the feedback that you have in regards to this show and any other show that we've had in the past. I would like to thank my wonderful production team at KBC, our partners, Journalists for Human Rights, our location partner, Bomba Hotel, and of course, my wonderful audience. Till we see each other next time, my name is Ashiko Mbune. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.